A quick warning, this episode contains discussions of domestic and intimate partner violence. Please check the show notes for a more detailed description, and take care of yourself. Thanks for listening.
Because it's like, this ain't the first time something like this done happened, and I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be the last. The way it happened, and there's no one to answer to what happened to her. We don't know how her last moments in life was. We don't know what conversation was had. Like, that's probably the worst part of it for me. Just imagining her last moments.
Last moments spent trying to break away.
You got 24 to 48 hours to change your whole life after domestic violence.
But sometimes the pursuit of a new beginning.
Because at the end of the day, somebody that really care about you, the expression love you to death, that's too much.
Can lead to a tragic end.
Some of those threats are legit. The time when victims are most likely to be killed is when they leave, not when they stay.
From Milwaukee PBS with support from the International Women's Media Foundation.
This is The Missing Piece,
An investigative podcast series about domestic violence cases in Milwaukee County.
a growing crisis.
Unprecedented numbers of people, mainly women, losing their lives.
We're taking a deep dive on how we got here.
And what is being done to save lives and restore peace.
We're your hosts, Alexandria Mack.
And Scotty Lee Myers.
Episode 3, Risking It All.
This is her birthday the year before. We went to Chicago that weekend. Her brother had got her a Tiffany chain. And she didn't even know he was coming. She was too geeked.
This is Lanicia. She's sharing memories of her best friend of 20 years, Nikia Rogers. Nikki for short.
Yeah, this is the actual video I made for her. My little cousin made it and spelled 30 wrong.
When she thinks of Nikki, it's impossible to forget the countless nights of karaoke and hookah sessions. Her friend, always known as the hostess with the mostest.
She had a gravitational pull. Like, she was one of the type of people you wanted to be around. She always made you feel, she was like the host of everything we did. It's on my Facebook, I got this collection of BFF memories. Coincidentally, I made her a video for her birthday, like birth to now. On her 35th birthday, we did like a big thing in the basement. This was her actually watching the video I made. That's her in the chair. She was geeked. She was too geeked about it. She had the mic. She almost cried watching this. And we had this thing, like, when we do posts, we always try to, like, bring the emotions out of each other. So she'd be like, gee, I'm gonna have everybody crying with this post. I'm like, wait till you see this video. I snapped. I can feel her now. I got goosebumps. It's crazy.
She looks so small. How tall was she?
She was little, about 5'5".
Yeah.
This is her doing karaoke. We always did something. That was her attitude. This is her. Like, just a little ball of energy, fam.
That loving energy shown by always trying to take care of the people she loved, whether hosting a ladies' night or being the mom of the group. Every morning, making sure her friends were dressed for Wisconsin's wonky weather.
Yeah, we call her Little Doppler because every morning we was on a group chat. It's always like up to 8 of us at a time. She had to be to work at 7, I had to be to work at 7:30, so 6:30 she'd out of group. What y'all doing? Good morning. You know, she always had positive energy. Like, and some mornings she'd be like, oh, I'm tired of this job. And we was always support for one another. It was like a sisterhood. It still is. But yeah, we always be like, she'd be like, girl, put your coat on. It's cold out there. It's raining. It's windy. I went out there to take the garbage out. Lord have mercy. I'm like, what? I'm bundling up. Like, let me get the boy bundled up. You know what I'm saying? She was good for that. So we used to always be like, what's the weather going to be today, little Doppler? Because she'd pull out the forecast like the meteorologist.
Sunny skies today with
But Lanicia remembers a summer morning that the group chat didn't get its usual morning forecast.
I remember that morning, and my cousin, you know, we was on the phone. We like, damn, where little Doppler? She ain't even pop in this morning. Like, we ring that bell, you answer. We talk if you don't. And she didn't. So a couple minutes later, one of my cousins called and was like, hey, I really couldn't hear what she was saying. She was hysterical. She was like, I need you to go over there at Nikki's house. Her mom or her auntie, somebody in Chicago called her and said that they seen her house on fire on the news from Chicago. So we like, what? I was at work. I'm finna go run over here. I just got a bad vibe, G. Like, I need to go see this for myself. So I got in my car and I had my son with me, which now I regret.
Nikki was found shot to death in her burning home on August 25th, 2022. She was 36 years old. Her ex-boyfriend, Ernest Terrell Blackney, was charged for her murder. Just 10 days before, Blackney had pled guilty to felony second-degree sexual assault of a child in Milwaukee County. he was out on bail.
I wonder what those 10 days were like. You know,
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
But I know she was like telling him that she was leaving.
She told him that. She delivered that message to him.
Yeah, she was like, she ain't finna be with him no more or whatever. She don't want to be with him. And her mom had asked her, like, do you think he'll try to do anything to you or whatever? And she was like, oh, no, you know, he good. She didn't see it coming either, you know what I mean? But I was just like, damn.
Lanicia remembers in one of her last conversations with Nikki how her friend said she was about to risk it all by leaving Blackney.
Did she tell you how that conversation went with Terrell?
No.
Nope.
I remember her, like, we was all in the group chat, and she was like, well, I'm gonna go over there and get my stuff. But she was telling us, like, she didn't want to go by herself. She didn't want to go late. She was nervous. She didn't know how he was gonna react. Because she was like, he was crying and this and that.
Nikki and Blackney had been together for about 6 years. Lanicia remembers early on thinking that her friend had found someone that really cared about her. Those thoughts affirmed when she'd seen his random acts of kindness, like the time Blackney planned Nikki a surprise birthday party.
And we went in there and they had like tables set up with our pictures and food, and it was so nice. I remember her crying about it. She came in like, oh my God. It did, you know, we all popped out of the side like, surprise. She just bawled out. And in my mind, it was like, that's when I was like, damn, Terrell is good to her. So that's why it was just like a slap in the face, this whole situation.
It doesn't always start in an abusive situation.
This is Patrice Macbeth, a mental health therapist who specializes in trauma, domestic violence, and sexual assault. She currently co-chairs a committee on sexual assault for the City of Milwaukee's Office of Community Wellness and Safety. She's also a DV survivor.
Because most of us won't enter a relationship if it's abusive. And so a lot of people hold on to the hope of it's going to get back where it was when it started. But you met the representative, not the real person.
When I first called Lanicia, she shared that once police labeled the murder as domestic violence related, she felt like local media painted a picture that the people around Nikki were ignoring red flags.
I'm not gonna say like she was coming around, it was bruised, she was acting scared, but like she was in a relationship with a grown man.
Blackney was 9 years older than Nikki. Lanicia thought the age difference explained most of the couple's disagreements. In her mind, she could only remember one night that raised concern.
So it was like, yeah, he want her in the house, he don't want her out partying how we used to do all the time. She wants to have a child. They was trying to have a baby at a point in time. I remember she was getting like treatment to have a baby. Like it was just her living her life to me. But then it was like one time we was over there and we was drinking and carrying on, kicking it. And I don't know what happened, but my cousin must have seen him say something slick or grab Nikki the wrong way.
That was about 2 to 3 years into the relationship. Outside of that, things seemed pretty solid between the two. So much so that when police arrived at their home on the northwest side of Milwaukee in October 2021 to arrest Blackney on charges of sexual assault, Nikki initially stood by his side, pending the investigation.
And she called me and she was like, girl, they came and got Terrell in the middle of the night. I'm like, what? What happened? Like, what's tea? You know? She like, oh, I don't know what happened or whatever. You know, she was kind of still hysterical. She was like, they came and got him. I don't know what's going on. I got to go get him and, you know, whatever the situation had happened. I'm just like, okay, that was all I heard. And the next morning she called, because, you know, I wasn't finna let up. I'm like, well, what the hell happened? She like, oh, it was some bull stuff.
Legal records show Blackney had been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl back in September of 2020, almost a year before his initial arrest for the assault.
But like my cousin them, they like little investigative journalists, they self. They always keep their nose to cases and stuff that be going on. So they was like, yeah, they picked up the case. And they like, well, why she ain't saying nothing about it? Well, maybe it's some truth. Now, like, they was just making, maybe she was ashamed or whatever the situation. But like, I hadn't heard nothing about it until maybe a week or so before she was killed.
So when Lanicia heard the news of her best friend walking away from her long-term relationship in August of 2022, she knew Nikki had reached her breaking point.
Nikki was the type of person who, like, she loved hard. Like, she was the type of person, she probably was too good for him. And he knew it. And he knew, like, he couldn't live without her at this point. Because, like, you know, you be in a relationship with somebody and they get that sense of ownership.
And Nikki choosing to leave the relationship on top of a pending prison sentence created a different breaking point for Blackney.
Yes, his life was going down the drain. He was waiting to go sentencing. The proverbial was finna hit the fan because not only was you accused of this, you know, heinous crime, it was one of your family members. You got a girlfriend that's, you know, a younger woman that you dating that's pretty and any man will want her. And you out here diddling little girls. You know what I mean? So, like, Nikki probably was ashamed. She probably was, you know what I'm saying? Like, She could have waited. She could have waited till he went to sentencing. He could have went to jail, and she could have played along. And you know what I mean? But she was just like, no, I'm not finna stand by your side with all this that's going on. In my mind, that's how it went.
Studies show that 75% of DV homicides happen when the victim attempts to leave the relationship, and that increase in violence can last up to 2 years. I kept coming back to this after Lanicia mentioned Nikki said she was about to risk it all by leaving. Almost like Nikki sensed the potential danger.
But really at the heart of it, I think a lot of it is control, right? It just really escalates and blows up at that time when the relationship is severed or separating because of this lack of control that somebody has over what's going to happen next and the decision that the victim in that relationship is making.
This is Michelle Copens. She's the coordinator of Milwaukee County's Domestic Violence High Risk Team, an effort formed by advocates from the Sojourner Family Peace Center. She oversees a team of law enforcement agencies like police and district attorneys, as well as people that work with those experiencing or inflicting the violence, in hopes of preventing the most dangerous of DV cases from becoming homicides down the line. Michelle says the hard part of stories like Nikki's and some others is sometimes the warning signs are there, even if it's a subtle red flag. She explained that a growing number of these DV-related homicides don't come with a long paper trail of convictions and prior reports.
Way back in the day, when someone died from a domestic homicide, we knew them. They had filed for a restraining order, they had been in our shelter, they were people we knew that we had connected with. Now it's the complete opposite. Most of the time when there's been a homicide, we have zero history or connection with those families, nor does our law enforcement partners. At Sojourner, we did an internal study where we connected with surviving family members from domestic homicides to ask this very question, right? Like, did this come out of the blue? Were you surprised? And in the majority of situations, they weren't. So when someone has less to lose, they're always more dangerous.
Nikki was one of 49 women in the state killed in a domestic or intimate partner incident in 2022. In her case, there was no documented history of abuse, no alarming glimpse into the life behind closed doors. But in other cases that resulted in death,
where is Emily Rogers? The young mother went missing in late April.
There were more striking warning signs.
23-year-old Emily Rogers has been missing for a week now.
Emily Rogers was a 23-year-old mother of one. She was last seen alive on April 26, 2022. The same day, her boyfriend, Nicholas Matson, was released from jail.
According to legal documents, on the morning of his release, one of the last messages she sent read, "I can tell it's going to be a shitty day." Other messages and interviews with friends painted a picture of a woman who wanted out of the relationship. A series of messages proving that breaking up would be easier said than done.
Emily writing, "He literally just showed up here." Another text writing, "I had to force him to leave."
Prosecutors say Matson had a history of domestic abuse, including a 2020 arson case that alleged he burned Emily's belongings in a garage. That was later dismissed. Kent Lovern, Chief Deputy District Attorney for Milwaukee County, told a reporter that the case fell apart when Emily indicated she did not want to appear at the trial. In May of 2020, Emily told Cudahy police about Matson's abusive behavior, offering details about how he had choked and bit her.
Yeah, it's just a yucky topic. Nobody likes to talk about it. In the homes, it stays in the homes. It's a secret. There's shame. There's embarrassment. There's a lot of victim blaming. People don't understand it, and they're thinking, like, just leave.
Yeah, so a lot of it, I think, is that lack of control, right? Things are falling apart. My relationship is falling apart. I'm losing this person who's most core or central to my world. For some people, it has a really big influence even on their experience or reputation in the community. So not only am I getting a divorce, but maybe I'm being accused of violence or abuse, or I've been arrested, or I'm facing criminal charges. So there's an embarrassment factor, right? There's a fear factor that goes with all of that. So that escalates the situation. Children can become a huge point of contention, right? So if we're separating as a couple and we share children together, how am I going to see my kids? Am I going to see my children? What is that going to look like, right? So that is a contributing factor.
And keep in mind, Emily's case against Matson was happening in spring 2020 through early 2021. So the legal system wasn't yet back functioning in its full capacity. We talked about COVID's impact on Milwaukee's judicial system in episode 2. That, pandemic or not, it requires a lot of trust for those experiencing violence to not only speak out, but to stay the course in their pursuit of justice, even through elevated risk.
Well, and realistically, if you're a survivor living with domestic violence in the thick of COVID, where are you going to go? I mean, right? Where are you going to go? And shelters were still operating. I mean, they were around, but that was terrifying to many people. I mean, to come into not just a shelter, which is hard enough, I think, for victims to consider, but during the height of COVID, when you might be exposed to lots of different people in very transient situations because of the violence in their life. Certainly, and this was before vaccines and before so many people were dying. So I think it impacted victims reaching out for help for a lot of reasons. If you're home all day long with this person, how do you even call for help, right? I mean, how do you even talk to anyone about it, let alone go to work and have a coworker who's like, hey, what happened? What's with the black eye, right? Yeah. So.
And the weighing of options, questioning, what's on the other side of, it's over, I'm leaving.
And then you having to figure out how you're going to eat. What are you going to do? And it's not just about leave. Well, none of us probably could just leave.
This is Serena Martin. She owns Mahogany Cares, a nonprofit that works with people experiencing sexual and domestic violence. She also co-chairs the City of Milwaukee's Office of Community Wellness and Safety Subcommittee on Domestic Violence.
Do we have first and last month's rent? We don't have any furniture. Where are our kids going to go to school? So it takes some time. And that's kind of what we do for us advocacy, that planning. Like, how are you going to stay safe until you can go? Everybody doesn't want to go to shelter or can go to shelter. The shelters are full. So I think we noticed that too, the full. I can call 10 or 12 shelters from here to Kenosha, to Fond du Lac, to Sheboygan, trying to find somewhere for somebody to go.
Studies show on average, it takes survivors of DV 7 attempts at leaving before they leave for good.
You got 24 to 48 hours to change your whole life after domestic violence. You either have to relocate, you have to do all this. How are you going to do that? A lot of the survivors leave, they don't have their ID, they don't have
birth certificates,
nothing. How are they going to get a place? How are they going to get anything done in 48 hours to possibly save their life?
This August will mark 2 years since Nikki's death.
On the boarded front door hangs a notice for owners to take action to demolish the property. The house she and Blackney once shared, now a tragic blemish in a quiet neighborhood. Everything is charred from the fire. The framing is exposed. Most of the windows are boarded up. And of those that are unboarded, I find myself curious to look inside, but also that's outweighed with a fear that my eyes will see something or someone that I'm not expecting to see. There's no real markers of it being a memorial, but there are pink flowers that sit on top of this mailbox. That's really the only sign of grief.
It was nice to hear that other people in the neighborhood are all impacted just like I was. You know, you smell the burnt, you see the house. It's just really sad. And, you know, some of us knew the people that lived there and some of us didn't. But, you know, it's a loss to all of us.
This is Arlene Giuliani. She's our production manager at Milwaukee PBS. But she also lives 6 houses down from where Nikki lived. Arlene says it's left her neighbors questioning how, why.
They're just sad. They're scared that something like this could happen and we didn't know that something was going on. So, you know, I don't know how we could have helped in the first place, but, you know, just it brings it to the forefront and it's just really scary. The other thing is the look of the house. It's boarded up at the bottom. The glass is broken in the windows upstairs. You can still see a time capsule of there was this vibrant life in a family and now there's curtains blowing in the wind and towels hanging on the bathroom rod probably. The smell when it happens, that's what gets me the most because the burnt wood or burnt plastic. It's like you don't want to have your own fire pit anymore because you smell the same burning. It's just, I guess, not just scary, but it's just really sad.
The house, a grief marker, symbolizing a shift from pleasant neighborly memories of bonfires and playdates to a dark reminder of a life stolen from the people who loved Nikki most.
People tell me all the time, like, I've changed, like, in this whole situation. I don't know if it's so much of the grief, but just, like, the fear of a that's supposed to care about you taking your life.
Nikki's friends and family never got a chance to see the case against Blackney play out in court. 8 days after Nikki was killed, Blackney died in a shootout with police.
A murder suspect chased by police in Milwaukee Friday night. Ernest Terrell Blackney would later be killed during a confrontation with officers. Blackney was wanted for the murder of his ex-girlfriend.
I was angry because I feel like death was too easy. Like, even though it was like how it was, I feel like you will never have to answer to what you did. You don't ever have to face her mom, her friends, her family, and explain why did you take her from us. Like, that's the most unfair part about it for me.
What does justice look like to you?
In this case, I really wouldn't know. Because it's like, I can't punish the who did it. You punished yourself. There is no justice for that. Because every day, I have little reminders that we're not growing old together. You're not going to be here and spoil your godson, like you've been saying. It just be little stuff.
Lanicia also wonders why Blackney was out on bail in the first place. Do you feel like there's any responsibility on the judge that decided not to keep him remanded?
Definitely. I feel like y'all should be answering to this because at the end of the day, like I said, this ain't the first time, it ain't the last. When somebody is, especially in this case, because he pled guilty. He said, yeah, I did that. And they like, oh, well, that's why I feel like the judicial system money hungry. Y'all just took the little bail bond, whatever the situation, and let that man go. And y'all shouldn't have.
Left with more questions than answers, she finds comfort in small messages from heaven through way of a Facebook game that generates a hypothetical text message from a dead loved one.
Oh my God, that had me, I was bawling that day too. You know, they got them little apps where it'd be like, somebody in heaven wants to say something to you or something like that. And I shared it. And the message was like so her. So it's like, hi Denise, it's me, your best friend. Sorry to leave you so early. Too bad I couldn't make more memories with you. But even though you feel like we're apart, know that you can talk to me whenever, wherever you are. I'm always by your side listening. You're the best friend I've ever had and forever will be. I love you. Oh, somebody was like, you needed to hear that. I'm like, yeah, I did. I ain't gonna say I went and sat down and talked to nobody, no. But being able to talk about it, like right now, without even choking up, I don't know, it's progress for me.
And through that progress, she's advocating that others don't ignore the red flags, no matter how subtle they may be. Better to never let your guard down than to experience a missing piece.
I would say stay vigilant, ask questions, be nosy, and don't take little stuff like, and brush it off. Because people give you little hints. So, just pay attention. Now, since that situation, we all got each other's location, which we had Nikki's too. That's where it threw us off at too, because it's like, damn, where's she at? Her location off. So that's something that he knew that he had to do, because he know we'll pull up. We don't play no games. Our little circle tight knit. Just basically stay vigilant, man. Just ask questions. Keep your head on the swivel, fam. Know people that you talking to, that you dating, fam. Because it's like we thought we knew this man. It was a couple years. But you never really know somebody.
If you or someone you know is going through a crisis or need help, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233. Resources specific to Milwaukee can be found in our show notes.
On the next episode of The Missing Piece.
The experiences that she had are quite emblematic of what victims and survivors at least have relayed to me, running into systems that don't appear to be responsive, running into people within those systems who are dismissive, constantly having to weigh your safety versus seeking accountability, and knowing that it's frankly up to you to do that.
We take a look at how domestic violence victims seeking justice can be met with the lack of help from the system. You heard additional reporting from Elliot Hughes of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and Fox 6 News and CBS 58 in Milwaukee.
The Missing Piece is hosted and produced by Alexandria Mack and Scotty Lee Myers. Other members of our team include sound engineer Grant Martin, engineering manager Arlene Giuliani-Kazorik, and digital content manager Carol Burns. Thanks for listening. If you're a fan of this reporting, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating. You'll hear from us again soon for episode 4 of The Missing Piece.